I've heard you talk very eloquently about how growing up, when you did, where you did, and around the people who you did, sort of equipped you with the tools that allowed you to play this character so well. So just your own story a little bit, if you can share for people who may not know.
Yeah, I have a personal story, but I think that anyone growing up black is equipped to tell this story, especially if you're over 40. But but I grew up in Central Falls, Rhode Island, and I moved to Central Falls, Rhode Island when I was 3 months old in 1965. And we were the first black family in Central Falls, Rhode Island. And we were poor. My mom had 8th grade education, my dad 5th grade education. So being poor and being the only black family, you could just, every place your mind would take you with that is exactly what our lives were like every day. The constantly being called ugly, black, nigger, people spitting at you out of cars and throwing things at you, boys chasing me after school, and I mean, a crowd of them wanting to beat me up, and always having to defend yourself, always fighting, and basically kind of living on the periphery of the culture. But at the same time, good memories mixed in there, you know. And there are a lot of people in this audience that they know what I mean, that you could be ostracized at the same time. There's enough good memories in there that kind of keep you afloat. But, for the most part, I just, it's like when Minnie talks about the Crisco. I remember we used that Crisco to get rid of that ash on our knees and our elbows, and I would go to school really greasy looking. And sometimes my mom would put Vaseline in my hair when we ran out of pomade, so she would put Vaseline in my hair to straighten my hair with the straightening comb, with the iron straightening comb and the iron curling iron that they put right on the fire. And they wait till it's like really hot, like a hot poker, just to make your hair straight. And you'd go to school smelling like grease and burnt hair. And so people were always like, "You smell like burnt hair." You do.
So how does somebody who comes out of that situation become not only, or even aspire to become not only an actress and not only a working actress, but somebody who has been an integral part of so many commercially successful, critically acclaimed movies, not culminating, but thus far in this, movie that everyone here has just seen? Where do you even find the dream for that?
Well, for me, I've said this time and time again, is when I saw Cicely Tyson in the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, it totally changed my life. And I can't emphasize that enough. To see her, it changed my life. It changed my life not just because of what she was doing, which was excellent. It was a craft. And it emerged at a time when the only thing we had on TV was the Ooh Wee Kid from Baby I'm Back, Jimmy J.J. Walker, the Dynamite Kid in Good Times, Rerun, and Mama from What's Happening, George Jefferson and Wheezy. That the only thing that I saw at that time were caricatures. And I loved them because we were hungry. As African Americans, we were hungry for our own images. And so I embraced it and I loved it. And I aspired to be that for a minute until I saw Cicely Tyson. And I saw the difference. I saw the difference because what I saw was that she created and transformed into a human being completely different than herself. And I couldn't even marry the older woman from the younger woman. And that's when I wanted to be an actress. But the reason why that dream was so big and so passionate was, for me, if it were just a dream to be famous, then I probably would have died a really quick death, because there is nothing about me that equals fame. I'm not a stand-up comedian. I don't sing. It's not like I'm like, bam, supermodel, beautiful, da 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 da. And so thank you. But but so for me, I didn't just aspire to be a celebrity. I aspired to be an actress. I was passionate about the work. I was intrigued by it. I was intrigued by being able to do something that people would admire and respect.
For a lot of years, it seems like the people who appreciated your talents the most were not the folks out here in Hollywood, but the folks, I guess, primarily on the stage, wherever that might be. And so, and actually, you've made I guess used a metaphor, or I don't know if that's even the right word, for where you basically said that in terms of film, when you started to get into film, you were offered, like fried chicken that you had to turn into filet mignon, I think was your term. And so I just wonder if you can talk about how you ended up still, despite being offered, very not necessarily meaty stuff, how you managed to catch people's attention and do something with that in film.
Because that's what you do. I trained as an actress. That's what I did. I developed a craft. I majored in theater in college. I got a bachelor's degree in 1988. I went on to Circle in the Square Theater. I went to Juilliard because I always felt, I always talk about Isabel Sanford and John Amos and Esther Roll, because they were actors. And they were trapped in these sitcoms, having to make that material work, knowing that their talent and their gifts were bigger than what they were given. But what else was there for them? And for me as an actress, I always wanted to be respected as someone who knew their craft. And there's always a sense in me that people can easily feel like you're not legitimate, if you don't have a background where you have studied and where you have a way of working and a process of working. So I wanted to make sure I had that foundation, so that, first of all, whatever I'm given, which is your job as an actor, whatever you're given, you have to create a human being with it. I don't care what you're given, okay? But I wanted to make sure that when I was given something substantial, that I knew how to approach it.
And along those lines, just as one of many examples that we could bring up, with Doubt, which might be the first time that people in film necessarily really appreciated what you were doing. Your preparation for that was astronomical, amazing. And so as the last pre-help question, if I can just ask you, just to show the kind of work that you're willing to do for even, I think it was 8 minutes of screen time, which was deservedly rewarded with an Oscar nomination. But I mean, that is not a ton to work with, and yet you made the most of it. What did you do to prepare for that one?
Well, it's based on a play, so I read the play. And after I read the play, I said, I don't even understand this woman. I don't know why this got all this attention. This woman wants to sacrifice her son and da-da-da-da-da. And I had all the kind of responses that you would have with a character that you didn't understand. But being an actor, you have to do investigative work. You have to make sure that when people are in the audience, they understand you. And they ultimately feel something. And so I had to write a bio, which ended up being over 100 pages. I talked to people who had seen the play, because I was doing a play at the same time and never saw the play. I read the script probably, I don't know how many times. So I literally studied the script for 4 months before I finally got it. Like, I had the aha moment. And the aha moment is we always want to feel that decisions are pretty. We always want to believe that decisions are easy, and sometimes they're a Sophie's choice, you know? And sometimes a person's motivations are absolutely pure, but to the outside eye, they look very dysfunctional. And I probably, had the aha moment 2 days before I even started filming. And I was really waiting for that aha moment because I said, I'm going to be opposite Meryl Streep and she's going to tear me a new a-hole. And I do not want to look bad. So, but I had that aha moment. But I did my work with that. I can't emphasize that enough, because I never want anyone to dismiss my talent. Listen, I may get up on this screen, and there are times when I may stink because it's occupational hazard to not always be good. But I never want anyone to say that she's not an actress. And too often, I'm just going to say it, too often with African Americans, they're dismissed as not being actors. She's a comedian or she's a singer or she's a whatever, but she's not an actress. Not an actress in the same sense as a Glenn Close or a Meryl Streep and Sigourney Weaver. And the reason why I mention these are all people out of Yale or William and Mary, and they came from Broadway. They came for the stage. They really studied and they have a craft. I want you to think of me in the same vein as you think of them. Minus this, just beyond this.
And sometimes you may have to go looking a little more than those people might have to find a part worthy of your talents. And I think the ultimate example of that is certainly with The Help, where you read it and you pursued it, and then you found out that some guy named Tate Taylor, whoever the heck that was, already on the rights. So how did you then go, how did you rectify the situation so that it worked out for the best?
Well, it's not really that much of a glamorous story. For me, you don't have a lot of choices. I don't have a lot of choices. I don't sit, at my house and 15 scripts are in front of me and I say, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to do a lead role in a grand sweeping drama? Warner Brothers just sent me this script, Or do I want to do this supporting role opposite, I don't know, Tilda Swinton? I don't have choice. I don't have choices like that. The Help came to me. That's what came to me. And I read the book. And for me, personally, this is my criteria. My criteria, I liked the book. I thought the book was really good because I understood these women as human beings beyond what they did, beyond being a maid. And that's the issue I've always had with, I know that there's a lot of controversy surrounding the movie, and that's why I just feel like I have to say this, is that a lot of times the problem that I have, the issues that I have, a lot of characters that I'm given are not humanized. There is nothing about them that I recognize as human beings. Nothing that they say, nothing that they do, but for me, Aibileen and Minnie made sense. I saw my mom, I saw my grandmother, but they're maids in 1963 Mississippi. How do you rectify it? You rectify it, you take the job. You take the job because, listen, for me, I feel like my husband and I started a production company. In order for me to go out there and find materials that are more imaginative, I have to somehow have more ground in Hollywood. I do. And so then I have a choice. I take the role. I humanize it. I use my craft. I create a human being on the screen that's memorable, that moves people, that somehow gains attention, that's a lead role in a movie for an African-American woman. And I take whatever accolades or whatever I get, and I can use it to grab a baton and take it to the next level, which is then get the material that is more expansive, if that makes any sense.
No, totally. And just to clarify, I didn't mean it in any way like how do you do something with.
Yeah, but that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
No, of course.
I had a flashback.
No, of course, of course. I guess what I wanted to prompt you, and if you're willing to share, because I think it's a funny story in the sense that, or an interesting story in the sense that you went out of your way to try to buy these rights because you wanted to do this so
I
badly.
did.
And then but then had it, then this guy already had it, and you, and he actually wanted you all along, but he thought, there was a little crossing of wires there, right?
Yeah, I thought I was going to option the book, and I called my agent. And I said, "How much does it cost to option a book?" He said, "Anywhere from $300 to $1,500." I was like, "Oh my!" Then I want to option the help. I want to do it. And then he called me back. He said, "This man named Tate Taylor has it." I said, "Tate Taylor?" I looked him up on IMDb. I said, "He's nobody. Offer him $300. He should be happy with the $300." No, seriously, I did. I offered him $300. But, and then I went from offering him $300 to saying, "Can I be in your movie?"
And just to clarify, this is a guy who also kind of hit the jackpot, and not that it wasn't worthy of his, or not that he wasn't worthy of doing it, but I mean the fact that he thought he was doing Catherine Stockett a favor by making a movie about her book to hopefully get it published, and then it goes and gets published, and now the whole world wanted somebody else to direct it.
I know, it's a great story.
It's unbelievable.
It's one of it's the kind of story that makes people who have dreams stay in the business,
Totally.
doesn't it? It really is. It's one of those stories that it's just magical, I think.
Right.
It's a real story of friendship and integrity.
Yeah, and Tate Taylor knew Octavia Spencer from being
they lived
production
together.
assistant to living together, and Anna knew Octavia, and it's just unbelievable. But for you, the thing that you've said when people ask you what's the most challenging thing, you talk about not having to decide whether or not you were okay with the dialect or other things that people assume would be problematic possibly for you, but the fact that so much of the character is internal dialogue. Can you explain what that means and how you overcome that when, I mean, it's sort of the year of silent movies between The Artist and Rooney Mara and Girl with Dragon Tattoo, and then we have your character who really doesn't say that much the entire movie.
Well, people like flashy characters. That's the thing. That's what they like. They like flashy characters, and so when you have a quiet character, you think nobody's going to pay attention to you. That's basically it. That nobody's going to receive what you're doing. You know, it's just how it goes in theater. It's the same way. The character is always out there. They say what they mean what they say. They're funny. They're poignant. And every character in this movie is flamboyant except for Aibileen. I had issues with that because of that. Because you sometimes feel like your talent is going to be lost. But in actuality, it does take a lot of craft to put together a quiet character. It does. So I had some trepidation with that. But I love quiet characters. I love them.
And we can really choose to embrace it like you did. It's a lot to do there. But one of the most important things, I think, is that between your film and Bridesmaids, you blew to hell the notion that movies about women can't make money at the box office. So I think that, first of all, and just speaking of other weird overlaps, I guess Octavia and Melissa McCarthy are buddies, right? So that's another strange thing. But with regard to your wonderful group of women, which we could go on and on for, I mean, Oscar winners, Sissy Spacek, Mary Steenburgen, all the way, to younger actresses, Emma Stone and Anna O'Reilly, and on and on and on and on. What was it like to work not only with such a large ensemble of talented women, but one that also includes the childhood hero that essentially inspired you to get in this in the first place, Cicely Tyson?
It was awesome. For me, it's a dream job to be with women. Listen, I'm the one actress, I don't have any negative stories ever in the business. I always have a great time, but this was extra special. They say that 90% of directing is casting, if you could put the right cast together, and Tate did a great job. The first day that we arrived in Mississippi in July in 2010, I had dinner with Octavia and Emma Stone for 5-6 hours. We just planned on going to a restaurant, just to bond, Abilene, Minnie, and Skeeter. We had it. We were there for 5 or 6 hours. We had, after 5 different desserts, which Emma ordered, and 7 different entrees, we were laughing and telling the most intimate details about our lives. We just clicked because it is the way it should be with women. You know, no cattiness. You know, we understand each other more than anyone else, you know. We love on a whole different level. And it was everything that you dream of, being with other women and different generations of women.
Yeah, really. The award season, people think that actors just show up at the awards and pick up their award, or they don't, and they go home, and that's that. But in fact, it is a lot like a political campaign, right? You're shaking a lot of hands, you're showing up at all kinds of places, you're kissing babies, you're talking to idiots like me. It goes on and on and on. So my question is just, you kind of you did go through it 3 years ago, but this has got to be on a totally different scale. Are you able to, A, are you able to enjoy it? And B, how did you find such a nice husband that he's willing to go with you to everything? I've seen him everywhere. Great, very, very as supportive as anybody I've seen.
First of all, I don't know how I got a great husband. I mean, God just blessed me with that one, because trust me, before him, I was not making good choices. So I was just absolutely blessed. I just prayed for that man. So I always say that, someone asked me that today, what's your secret weapon to just, handling the red carpet? I say my husband. He's my secret weapon, because he's so gregarious and he's so filled with joy. Me, I can sometimes be more cynical, and I'm very shy. So I'm trying to enjoy it. It's on a whole different level. So when I say I'm trying to enjoy it, doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying it. It's really wonderful. Truly, truly. It's just overwhelming. It really is. People don't understand that when people, like lately, people start talking about how you look. Nobody's ever talked about how I looked, okay? and so you're looking at pictures of yourself, and you think you're looking at a whole different human being. That's what it feels. That's exactly what it feels like. It feels like this whole different human being, this persona, is becoming bigger than who you are. And who you are is a girl with cornrows at home that forgot to color her hair, so the grays are coming out, and running around with ashy feet at home, running after my 19-month-old daughter, and cooking at home, and that's who I am. And so that's what's overwhelming about it. And you almost want to rise up and be and meet it where it's at, this persona, this celebrity, but you can't. It's not even you. It's Emma Stone always says, what's happening to me is not really happening to me. And that's what it feels like. But trust me, it's truly a blessing, because you have to know that if you dream big and then it comes at you, you got to step up to the plate.
The last of the crazy connections, I think, has to be the fact that 3 years ago, when you were nominated for Doubt, and Meryl Streep was nominated for Doubt, and Meryl Streep was going around picking up awards everywhere, what Meryl Streep was saying at every opportunity was, give this woman a movie to star in. She deserves one. She should be. And for that, you are now nominated in the same category as Meryl Streep, which is the perfect bow on the ribbon. So the last thing, I promise, but it's worth it, because this is a good story, and I hope she'll tell it if she'll humor us, is that last week in Santa Barbara, at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, you received I believe it's called the Outstanding Performance of the Year Award. And at the end, after putting you through one of these that goes on 4 times as long as this one, they ask you then additionally to give an acceptance speech. And during your acceptance speech, you told a story about something that happened in 3rd grade that you sort of saw as a metaphor for your life. And to bring this full circle, can you share what happened that would be sort of a metaphor for what's going on now?
Well, in 3rd grade, This kid was always teasing me. I won't mention his name, but he was always teasing me, calling me, you nigger, you black nigger. It's just every single day. This is way, way back when. So one day I said, I'm going to get him. He was considered the fastest runner in Central Falls. And I said, I'm going to beat your butt. I'm going to race you at recess. You're not the fastest runner in Central Falls. I'm the fastest runner in Central Falls. I probably flipped him the finger. You know, I was a vulgar kid too. You know, I could give it as much as I got it. So at recess, we decided to race, and the whole school was involved. Everybody in the school heard about it, and all the boys and some of the girls were on his side, just screaming for him. And I had my 3 or 4 friends on my side, and we lived in such abject poverty. I remember that we wouldn't keep up to date with the shoes, so my shoes were maybe a size too small, and it was the dead of winter, and I couldn't walk in the shoes. I'd have to stop every 2 steps, take the shoes off, then put the shoes kind of back on and walk again. It hurt my feet so bad. And then my socks were so torn, the only top part of my socks were left. So I said, how am I going to race him at recess with these shoes? So I said, I'm going to take my shoes off. Take my socks off. I'm going to take my shoes off in the dead of winter in the concrete. And I raced him. And I beat him. And I thought to myself, it's only been recently that I thought to myself that everybody was cheering and cheering, and he was saying, you didn't beat me, it was a tie, you didn't beat me. I said, yes, I did, yes, I did. And then I got in trouble with the teachers for having my shoes off. And, but nobody noticed that I didn't have any shoes on. And it's a metaphor for life, because nobody knows that when you come to the race, you don't come with the same set of tools as everyone else. That even when you come into the race with a deficit, you still have to run the same race. And that's the metaphor I use for my career, you know, that you can't be perceived even as the black actress who doesn't get the same kind of roles as the white actress. You got to run the same race. You got to give the same quality performances. You've got to have the same standard of excellence. Even though people know that you're coming to the race in a deficit, that's just what life is about, you know?
I'm glad I bothered you to tell it, because it's a great story. So the question essentially was that during your great Critics' Choice acceptance speech this year, you said there are two most important moments in a person's life are when they're born and when they find out what they're meant to do with their life. And so what's the road? What was that moment for you, I guess, and what's it been like since?
Well, 7, 8 years old when I saw Cicely Tyson, of course, I said I want to be an actress. But I have to say that with each success, the purpose changes. You'll see. It just changes. It becomes bigger and it becomes deeper. And that's why, by the way, it's overwhelming to be put in the position that I'm in. I mean, my stomach is nervous a lot. Because, how can I describe it? Now that I'm 46, so I'm in my middle stage of my life. And now it used to be, I want to be an actress. I want to be like Colleen Dewhurst and Jane Alexander, be great actress of the stage. People throw flowers on the stage. That was a big one for me. If someone threw flowers on the stage, that was big. I want to win a Tony Award. Won a Tony Award. Won another Tony Award. And I was like, okay, then I want to just be able to make my living as an actress and, you know, do a movie or whatever. So each time those dreams come true is what happens is you feel a heavier weight of responsibility on your back. And that silent voice that's always saying it's bigger than you. If anybody's up here who's ever achieved any success, they'll tell you the same thing. You feel it as soon as you walk off a stage with an award. The isolation big time. And then the responsibility of what's next. What are you going to do and how are you going to live your life? And for me, personally, I feel like my purpose is to somehow change the situation of the craft that I'm in. That I no longer want to have the conversation of actors of color being at a deficit. It's an old, tired conversation. Either you're talking about it or you're contributing to making it better. And so I feel like with my time now, I felt like I did all this to just be in a position where I could step back one day and create roles and stories for other African American actors or actors of color. Any actor, really, to be, all of us to be in the same world together. To move our art form forward to the 21st century, but only to do my part, only to run my leg of the race. That's all I'm responsible for. But let me tell you, I've not wasted, but it's taken me this entire time to realize that. 46 years old.
Want to go to the person in the back there? Yep.
Hi, I wanted to ask you a question. It's not personal, but it is personal. I'm an actress, and I do comedy. And I had an audition to do a spoof on, because you talk a lot about when you're an actress, take the role, do the work. But I had an audition to do a spoof on your role in The Help. And my mom is from Mississippi. She went through all of this, and she had me much older, so it was completely foreign to my reality. But for some reason, I just couldn't go in on it. It just felt so wrong to me. I was like, I can't. There was another audition for Maya Rudolph, a spoof in The Bridesmaids, and I was like, oh, I can totally do that. But to me, it felt like a violation of her journey, of my grandmother, of my great-grandmother, and then of your work. So it's interesting. I just wanted your thoughts on that, because for me, just as a human being, and then with my heritage, everything, I was like, it was just, yeah, that was very much.
That's a tough one to sum up. I just
Yeah. You did the right thing. That's what I have to lead with. And see, this is what always happens. I say that, and I'm like, oh, I should have been more responsible, because I usually always have the footnote. You always have to have a boundary as an actor. For me, you are not going to see me naked. I'm not going to get naked. I've turned down a lot of money to get naked for this one television show that actually never made it. But because I said, I'm not going to be able to live with this if this is kind of preserved in celluloid forever. But you always have to have a boundary of what you will or will not do. Now, your boundary is different from my boundary, because it's like you weigh your choices. And for me, if it's going to be too degrading and it's going to be something that I can't live with, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I can't even do a lot of roles where I cuss a lot. I had to do an audition where I had to really, but it was extraordinary amount of cussing. I just couldn't do it. And I don't feel like I'm that puritanical, but it's just too much for me. So if you don't have any boundaries, then you're going to be a puppet. And at the same time, you have to live with yourself at the end of the day. That's something the actors, people, we do a lot because we want it so bad. So we're willing to do anything to get it. It's good to have boundaries. I think it's really good.
right here.
I'm an actress too, and just seeing you, I just feel like you're colorless. And when I watch you, I don't think of you being black. I think of you being damn good, and I think that's what we're missing in Hollywood as a whole. And it is hard going for auditions and not trying to. It's like, do I take the audition or do I do the stereotype? And it's like, but you want to answer your resume, but you don't want to do this kind of work because you're so past that. And I feel like you get it, and it's like you're paving. In my mind, you already won the Oscar.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I want you to, but like, just the nomination alone is just so moving, and it's your role in The Help was a green role. You weren't naked, you weren't cussing, you were awesome. Acting. I think people lose the fact that it's a craft, and genres of acting, and through everything I've seen you in, you've never lost it. Like,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
so my question is, like, how do you feel about how, you know, Hollywood is trying to, or I guess, I say Hollywood as, like, you know, the entertainment industry as a whole, can't see past, like, the color factor as far as, like, you know, roles and casting, you know, more people of color, not necessarily being African or black, in predominantly lead roles. Because I feel like that's a really big issue. You can never be the lead, or like the best friend, that's really funny, you know? But you can never, like when you were in Nights in Verdante,
Yep.
amazing. You were just her friend. Like, and that's what it should be. It shouldn't be a girlfriend or a lot of friends. You were just friends. So like, and then Eat, Pray, Love. You're like the ginger. I swear. Like, honestly, so.
All right, well, let's let her answer.
You have to change Hollywood's mind. You just, that's my thing. Sometimes people have to see it. And so that's what my husband and I are doing with our production company, Juvie Production Company. We have a lot of fabulous scripts, by the way. I can't reveal all of them, but really good. Okay. But I did option a book, The Personal History of Rachel Dupree, and turn of the 19th century, black female protagonist. She's pregnant throughout most of the story. It is nail-biting. It is a page-turner. You've got to continue to do what you do. And when people see it, if it's done with excellence and if it's dynamic, I think they can't deny it. And so whenever you get the opportunity, I always say, who has the baton? And a lot of times the people who have the baton drop it because they don't have the talent or the vision or the courage to carry it, their leg of the race. With me, I'm going to carry my leg of the race, and that is putting stories out there that are expansive. Now, you still got to do the Hollywood thing to keep yourself viable or whatever, because, whenever you do anything that's different, you have to embrace failure also. But that's the only thing you can do. What else is there to do? But to put what you do out there. And what I do, I don't, I don't want to say anything insulting, but what I do is I'm the type of person that I think does more expansive stories and want more expansive stories. I was trained to do everything, so that's all you can do.
For folks like this gentleman who says you're disabled physically, and you're asking how would other people who are at an inherent disadvantage as an actor, from your experience and wisdom, how would you recommend people overcome that generally?
It's so difficult for me, I have to say, to give advice to other actors. It used to be so easy, but now that I've been in the business so long, it's getting more difficult because it's such a fickle business. There's no way of doing it. People are like, oh, keep taking classes. Well, I know people have taken classes their entire lives, or, just keep doing what you do. And that really is the only thing that I can arrive at, is to keep doing what you do to the best of your ability. There is something about that that's so powerful. People come to this city, and the first thing they do is they try to be like everybody else. And, it's Peter Dinklage. That's the one who comes to mind because he's the part of the whole New York theater community. He's a great actor, and, you kind of like forget the part that, he's a little person, and you begin to just embrace the talent. And he himself is someone who doesn't see himself as having any limitations. You got to do the work. That's all there is at the end of the day. You can't even rely on anything else. That's it.
Just listening to her, don't you wish you would be the first female president? I mean, you're so interesting to listen to.
Oh, man.
I could listen to you all day, but thank you so much for the performance, for doing so many of these. In case I don't see you again before, best of luck on the 26th, and whatever happens, it was great.
Thank you.